India, and reminding us that the Indic civilization has always been a civilization of ideas. And we have been known as knowledge civilization before we were known about any other things, from science, technology, language, linguistics, art, architecture, whatever field that you want to talk about, we always had ideas. And Madhavji also talked about paradigm shift, the way we have to look at ourselves, from the position of strength, and that requires, in Hindi there is a saying, "Sawan ko andhe ko sab hara hara hi dikhta hai." So we have been sawan ka andha for a long time. So eventually, hopefully, it's our time that we start seeing things from strength. I don't know if you have seen some of those ads when they talk about those people who have color blindness, and there are classes to correct those color blindness. And you go and do a search on YouTube, you will see there are hilarious videos. People, when the first time wear those glasses, then they realize they can actually see different colors. Thank you, Ram Madhavji, for reminding us we need to wear those glasses so that we know that we are from a position of strength. I'm asking some of my friends to walk around. If there are questions, they can pick up the questions. People are raising their hands, so collect those questions. And then we'll read some of those questions for Ram Madhavji. So, anonymous question: what is our planning to declare India as Hindu Rashtra?
Who should declare it? We all should declare it. And you must remember one thing, that India is a Hindu Rashtra is not a matter of constitutional status. It's a matter of our own realization of the society. And suppose society doesn't realize, is it not Hindu Rashtra? Is it not Hindu Rashtra today?
It is.
So where is the question of anybody announcing it? The point is, everything we want somebody else to do it. Those in government should declare it. Suppose they declare it today. How is it going to change the ground reality? Is it going to now make those who don't believe in Hinduism believe it overnight? That it is a Hindu Rashtra is a Sanatana Satya. You understand what is Sanatana Satya? The eternal reality that India is a Hindu Rashtra. When we say Hindu Rashtra, culturally, civilizationally, we believe in Hindu wisdom. Okay, here Avtash Kumarji has an Indic group. They may not call it Hindu wisdom, they may call it Indic wisdom. We don't have any problem. रोज को रोज कहो और किसी नाम से बुलाओ, उसका सुगंध वही रहेगा. We are not the ones to worry about the name. If somebody wants to call it, no, you should call it Indian culture. Why do you want to call it Hindu culture? We say no problem for us. Let me ask you one very interesting, share with you a very interesting fact, which you all know also, many of you. Gandhiji, throughout his life in the independence movement, did he ever call the movement a Hindu movement? Never. He always insisted on Hindu-Muslim unity. But throughout, Muslim League had only described him as a Hindu leader. So much so that in the first roundtable conference, when the invitation was not initially extended to Muslim League, to Jinnah, Jinnah complains bitterly to the Viceroy. Viceroy says, you see, Congress represents all those people in India who are fighting for independence. Jinnah tells them, no, don't be under that mistaken opinion or impression. Congress represents Hindus. Muslim League represents Muslims, so I should get an invitation. So he got it and Ambedkar got it for scheduled castes. Why I am saying this is, even those like Gandhi, who always used the word India only, or Bharat only, still they were seen as Hindu because the ideas they represented were Hindu. The vocabulary, the language, the methodology, the bhajan, the kirtan, the language, the actions, they are all Hindu from civilizational cultural sense. So India is Hindu not necessarily because something is there in our constitution or somebody has declared it, but by virtue of its 5,000 plus years of history of its civilization. So we are a Hindu Rashtra. What remains is to awaken this sense of pride in the society.
Thank you. And some of the things Ram Madhavji is talking about, and there are lots of questions here, and depending on time, we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. But for those that we are not able to, please pick up the book. It has answers to a lot of questions that you're going to ask. So
I have not made any claim, but Avatar ji ko dhanyawad deta hu.
And we have lots of books outside, just in front of the...
But it helps in selling more books.
So Ram Madhavji, here is another question for you. How do we handle global refugee issue in an Indic way? Europe has refugee issues of their own, so does USA and Bharat. Can you share some ideas, please? This is by Ravi.
Oh yes, first of all, if you look at India's history itself, you will find answers to how we look at this challenge of refugees. In India, those who come seeking help, support, asylum have always got it. That has been the India's tradition with respect to dealing with displaced, persecuted people. It's another matter. One should not try and exploit this liberty of India, this liberal approach of India. There we put a restriction. We say, thus far, no further. If you are a refugee, you will get all the support. But if you want to exploit the situation and sneak into India, we'll send you home. We will treat with you differently. But India has dealt with them in decades, in centuries. We always stood for the good of the refugees. Citizenship Amendment Act, which is grossly misunderstood, is actually a gesture of India's centuries old tradition of respecting or taking care of the refugees. Now, in India's neighborhood, in Pakistan and Bangladesh, a peculiar situation arose after the formation of those countries. In Pakistan after 47, in Bangladesh a few years after 1971. Both countries became Islamic republics. And Bangladesh still has the distinction of being a secular country and an Islamic republic, both. I mean, it's their own system, I have nothing to comment about. But that had led to certain situations where the minorities of those countries were compelled to leave and rush to India. Same is the situation in Afghanistan. Even now, this Taliban regime has forced many minorities from Afghanistan to flee to India. Where will they go? Because we were one people before. We decided that those who come as refugees can now benefit from the Citizenship Amendment Act. Now some wise men ask us, What about Muslims? Why are you excluding Muslims? Yeah, we are saying minorities. Are Muslims minorities there? They are not minorities. Now, if Muslims have to come to India, there are citizenship laws which permit that. Adnan Sami, he was given citizenship by Modi ji himself with his own hands. A Pakistani national. He was given citizenship by Modi ji in 2017. Where are we stopping? But when it comes to persecuted minorities, we fast-tracked it, where a normal citizen, for India, citizenship has to wait for 12 years. If you are a persecuted person, you will get it in 6 years or 7 years. May I ask you, doesn't it happen here in America? Do not refugees get special status here than migrants like all of you for citizenship? Here there are communities from Vietnam and other places who have been fast-tracked into securing American citizenship, granting American citizenship here in this country. Does anyone contest it? Does anyone say you gave it to Vietnamese migrant, you did not give it to Indian migrant? Do anyone raise those questions? No, because certain situations demand certain measures. So our approach to refugees problem is very clear. Traditionally, India has always welcomed all the persecuted people. We continue to honor that tradition. Period.
Thank you. Sudeshji, I have lots of questions, so just give me a clue when to stop it. Thank you. Okay. Here's a question by Rakesh Malhotra ji. He's talking about his book and your book, and he's saying, define the difference between religion and dharma.
Oh, much talked about thing. You Google it, you will get lot of it, because so many, Avtar Kumar ji must have also written so much about it.
Yes.
Many of our people can explain to it. Religion, as we understand globally, is a way of worship, whereas dharma, in our system sometimes our scholars interpret it as way of life. The basis of it is very interesting. In fact, I did discuss about it in the book. This whole way of life argument, to me, looks a little lopsided. The reason is, which religion is not a way of life? Is Islam not a way of life? It defines everything to the extent that whether you can urinate facing Makkah, there is this thing, fatwa, you cannot do that. To that level it goes to interfere in your affairs. We also have our Vastu Shastris who will say that your toilet cannot be in this direction. Udhar only Bhagwan ka ghar hona hai, toilet nahi hona hai. It interferes. Every religion dictates way of life. What is dharma? Is more than a way of life, it is a view of life. A very distinct approach to life. How do you look at the creation? How do you look at God? How do you look at man? How do you look at society? How do you look at humans? How do you look at animate? How do you look at inanimate? Everything, your view is different from the view which has originated in Semitic systems or Abrahamic systems. Whether they are right or wrong is a different debate. Let those who are following, let them have it. As far as we are concerned, we have a distinct world view. That world view is the basis for our dharma. So our dharma is not a way of worship definitely, because way of non-worship bhi hai hamara dharma. Way of non-worship also is dharma. Somebody like Charvaka, who said yavat jive sukhan jive runam krutva ghrutam pive bhakti bhutasya dehasya punragamanam kata. जब तक जियो सुख से जियो, कर्जा लेकर घी पियो, क्योंकि भस्मीभूत से देह से एक बार मरने के बाद कौन पूछने वाला है? Rank materialist. But we said he is a rishi. Buddha, contemporary of Charvaka, discarded God. He said God गिल नहीं है, soul गिल नहीं है, जो भी है इस लाइफ में है. दुख है, दुख का निवारण ढूंढना है, दुख का कारण ढूंढना है, निवारण ढूंढना है, उससे बाहर आना है। 4 सूत्र बता दिया। दैट इज रिलीजियस। उनको भी हमने मान लिया। दिस धर्म इज अबाउट दोज वैल्यूज। In fact, I will leave a provocative thought with you, and because it's an interesting question, a very provocative thought. I don't want you to take it because I am saying it. You think about it. India, don't misunderstand what I am saying. Please fully understand what I am trying to say. Is not a land of the so-called morality. The whole morality discourse that we do, in which we restrict this person, that person, we restrict women, we restrict children, we restrict that man, this man. Arey, ye galat hai. India is not a land of Victorian morality. India is a land of values. Morals follow values. Morality by itself is nothing. If morality is everything, was Mahabharata war technically speaking moral? Was Ram killing Wali technically speaking Victorian morality wise, is it moral? How was Bhishma killed? How was Abhimanyu killed? How was Karna killed? Karna in fact asked Krishna, people say that you are the epitome of Dharma and you want Arjuna to kill me when I am not even on my chariot. So Krishna tells him, Baba, ab yaad aaya dharma tumko? Now you remember dharma. Where was your dharma when Draupadi was being disrobed? So here, Yuddha dharma is dharma. So we are a country of values. That is dharma. So it's a very, very profound idea, profound concept. In fact, today the whole world needs it. We Indians need it much more than anybody else. So we need to first of all understand it properly, so that we can give it to the rest of the world. And one last thing: there is no conflict between dharma and religion. Religion can remain. In India, so many religions are already there. So many are born every day. सच्चे साई रिलीजन बन जाता है, शिरडी साई का बन जाता है, कोई स्वामी का बन जाता है। उस स्वामी कोई किसी को लगता है कि नहीं मुझे अपने आप को रिलीजन डिक्लेयर करना है, तो वो कहेगा कि वी आर नॉट हिंदूज, वी आर सो एंड सो रिलीजन। वी से ऑलराइट, ऐसा कहने का अधिकार केवल हिंदूज को है, तो इसलिए तुम वो रिलीजन बना दो। So we have absolute freedom when it comes to freedom of worship. Absolute freedom. You worship anything, everything. That is dharma. Not just one way or method or process of worship. That is religion. Thank you.
Everyone will be agreeing that this is not explained in Google, so very well done. Thank you. Google would not have answered this.
No, but many probably have done. Anyway.
I think one of the things that missed from your speech, Madhav ji, is about uniform civil code. Would you like to talk about it?
Okay. मैंने कहा ना, हम तो 10 जो हुआ तो भी 11वां कौन सा नहीं हुआ है उसको ढूंढने में एक्सपर्ट है। ठीक है। As far as uniform civil code, one thing you remember, as far as this whole long agenda of all of us is concerned, the so-called Hindu agenda, Hindutva agenda, इतना विश्वास रखो कि सबका नंबर आएगा। थोड़ा आगे पीछे आएगा, बट सबका नंबर आएगा। And we have done many things, even on the issue of uniform civil code. There are religious codes on civil issues, civil matters with respect to Muslims and Christians. But Christian civil code has largely been integrated with the Indian civil code. The problem remains with the Muslim personal law, which is also generally on par with Sharia. Not exactly Sharia. Sharia is a much wider thing. In India, in 5 areas only, there used to be concurrence of Muslim personal law with Sharia. Only 5 areas. Out of those 5 areas also, now Marriage thing has been taken out. Divorce thing has been taken out. So only three are remaining: succession, adoption, and alimony. These three are remaining. No, the alimony question is largely addressed because polygamy largely many courts have declared as not correct, and talaq has been banned by courts. So you have already made one-third journey in the direction of uniform civil code. Remaining 2-3 issues, uska bhi number aa jayega jaldi. So should we now do it in the form of uniform civil code or let them happen naturally? In a course, in a due course, they will happen. I feel that there is no need to show your machismo. That has dekho, humne dikhaya na. Aisa karne ki zarurat nahi hai. In the natural course, they will also happen. As I said, when triple talaq was banned, there was no protest. And in fact, Muslim women were so happy. So gradually these things happen, but in their own process they will happen.
Thank you. And I have another question. Madhavji, you talked about new education policy, and that's an effort to create a new way of thinking, maybe it's something related to that. Is there a need of non-Western ecosystem? Western ideologues continue to pull down other thoughts which are not aligned with their own. Any effort that is going on that you can share?
Oh, yes, non-Western is the right approach, not anti-Western. We must remember, there are many good things that one can pick up even from the Western experience. In that we used to say that Western science is welcome. Western way of life, you don't have to take it. You can have your own way of life. India's experience is enough for us. So, there need to be a non-Western approach to all the challenges that we face in India as well as for the whole mankind. Because the world order that was built in the last century was essentially a Western ideas-based world order. This liberalism, this democracy, all these ideas that have dominated the world's thinking in the last 7-8 decades have all had their origin in European experience, European thinking. They are not necessarily all of them are bad, they are good. But India's experience is not just a few centuries experience, it's an experience of several millennia. You have so much to add to it. For example, take the case of democracy. Deen Dayal used to say that for India, democracy should not mean a majoritarian rule. It should mean a rule by consensus. Gandhi used to say that for me, I don't know so many big things about democracy and all. What I know from democracy, of course democracy is the only best available form of government. But for me, democracy means the weakest getting as much power as the strongest. That is democracy for me. That is Ramarajya for me. Now, when you talk about democracy, can you build in these ideas? So that is where a non-Western approach to existing ideas is needed. I mentioned to you about secularism. Secularism is not one type in the world. Although it's a very Western idea, even in the West, there is no consensus about it. The French secularism is rejection of religion. The American secularism is total freedom to religion. So both parts of a secularism. In our experience, in Indic experience, what secularism meant was equal respect to all different religions. We respect everybody. We reject nobody. Swami Vivekananda came to Chicago, this place, 120 years ago. What was his speech here? He says, I come from a land which has not only taught tolerance. Why he used that word tolerance was because in that parliament, Chicago Parliament of Religions, the main theme was about tolerance. The missionaries were trying to tell the world that you are all inferior fellows, still we tolerate you. That was the whole objective of that conference. So Vivekananda came and told them, look, you are talking about tolerance. I come from a land that not only tolerates, but validates and accepts every religion as true. And I must tell you, we are the only people in the world who not only accept or validate, but celebrate diversity. For us, a new religion is a new celebration. और एक त्योहार मिल गया है, हम मस्ती करेंगे और लड्डू बनाएंगे. We are such people. Can we infuse this sense in the entire secularism discourse? It's not just about state and religion. It's about the worldview about religion. How do you look at religions and diversity, acceptance, pluralism, and celebration? So that is why a non-Western approach to everything is important. We in India are attempting it. We are doing it through our discourse. We are doing it through our writings. But that has to increase. That's why I said in my speech that now this kind of intervention should increase. From our side, we have to write more. We have to produce books about it. You know, I have not come across many books talking about the human rights approach of Hinduism. Why not? Why not Hinduism's approach to women rights? I came across one wonderful book recently, written by one professor from your state, Indian. Wonderful book. It talks about 10 women in our scriptures, whom we describe. In fact, in Pratasmarana Ekartata Sotram, we describe about 10 women. We call them Mahasattvis. Who are they? Kunti, Savitri, Draupadi, Sita, Anasuya, like them. That book deals with the individual history of each one of them. You will be surprised to know that each one of them was a rebel.
What is the name of the book?
I will tell you. It was by Professor Lavanya Vamsani, Hindu view of womanhood or something like that. In fact, I have a full chapter on it, on womanhood.
Mahabharata and the women's journey of...
she talks about all the, something like that. So, the point I'm trying to make is, that should become the Indian discourse. Why can't we proudly say that centuries or millennia before you started talking about feminism here, we had women who enjoyed such kind of freedom. You know, Kunti had experimented with her sexuality. When a boon was given, she tried to experiment with it before the marriage itself. That's how Karna was born. Did we call Kunti a fallen woman? Instead, we said she is Mahasattvi. Draupadi would not adhere to any societal discipline. You know, you so-called morality, she would say, Bhad mein jaye. You know, Bhishma was on Ampashaya, bed of arrows, waiting for his death. Yudhishthir goes to him. Yudhishthir won the war. He goes to him seeking lessons in Raj Dharma, because he became king for the first time. So Bhishma was about to give him a discourse on Raj Dharma. Draupadi was passing by. She laughs out loudly. So Yudhishthir gussa karta hai. What are you doing? Because first of all, in our society, women, first of all, they are not allowed to laugh publicly. And that too, in front of Bhishma Pitamaha, the grand old man of the clan. And when he was on the deathbed, you are laughing. So Yudhishthira scolds her. Bhishma prevents Yudhishthira. Bhishma says, don't scold her. Draupadi's laughter is valid. She was laughing at me because when in a full house, when she was being disrobed, I was a mute spectator. Am I qualified to teach you Raja Dharma? For that she was laughing. Her laughter was valid. This is the way we looked at our woman. But do we say this? We need to now write these things about our history. Then world will respect you. So this discourse has to come forward. The way we treated with our communities, the way we treated with our sex. Okay, in Indian system also, because it has lived for more than 5,000 years, certain bad elements creep in. 5,000 years कोई जी के दिखाया हम देखते पहले. कोई सर्वाइव नहीं किया दुनिया में, हम सर्वाइव किए हैं. Certain evils have crept in. Don't hang on to those evils. Discard them. We are the most vibrant people. We have discarded all evils, yet survived as a community, as a culture, as a civilization. Because we had the courage to discard them. Those who cannot discard even a whale, take it from me, 200 साल के बाद रहेंगे नहीं. या तो डिस्कार्ड करो तुम्हारा सारा ये नाटक बदलो, या यू विल पेरिश. कहाँ है ग्रीक सोसाइटी, कहाँ है रोमन सोसाइटी? So what I'm trying to say is we need to now engage in this discourse, write about it, produce academic works, so that this idea gets traction in the most crucial part of a period of humanity's history, mankind's history. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhavji. Yes, this has to come from within ourselves. It is very fashionable these days to talk about climate change and environment. How many people know that one of the first environmental protocol was written in Rigveda, Bhumi Suktam? आप पढ़िए और उसमें बताएंगे कि line by line बताया गया है कि how you take care of Mother Earth. Okay, so just wanted to mention that, and at Indic Academy we have done several seminars on Indic feminism. So if you can go look it up, some of those videos, that'll be great. Now, Madhavji, we have another outstanding scholar in the audience here today, Shri Sridhar Damleji, and this is a question from him. Many critics compare Hindutva and Hinduism with Zionism and Judaism. Can you please comment?
Jainism was a political ideology. Hindutva is not an ideology in the first place, much less political. We have great sympathy for the great battles that the Jews had waged in their 2000-year-old history of struggles. We take many lessons, lot of inspiration from their battles, how they reclaimed their forgotten or lost motherland. To that extent, the Jewish history is a great inspiration to all of us. It teaches many lessons. I mean, you may lose your territory, but nation survives. That's why we don't agree with the European idea of nation state, which is always linked to a political establishment and a geographical entity. We say nations require a polity, nations require a land, but if they don't have a land or don't have one polity, they don't cease to exist. They still exist. India never had one king or one ruler. Even when we became independent, India was being ruled until then by 560 different kings and kingdoms. India didn't exist. It existed. Because our civilizational life, our national life, the basis for it is our civilizational and cultural unity. One such important lesson that one can learn from the Jewish history was that they were removed from their territory, their land, for close to 2000 years. Pushed out of their territories by Romans in 76 AD. They could reclaim their territory only in 1948. So more than about 1900 years they lived without territory. But the nationhood, they did not allow it to dissipate. You know, wherever they were, they used to come together on one day of the year. All Jews would come together. If they are in Bombay, they would come together, remember their country, remember their ancestors, remember their history, while parting at the end of the meeting, shake hands with one slogan, next time in Jerusalem. When we meet next year, we all should meet in Jerusalem. This they continue to say for 1900 years. And you know, the 1900 years of this tapasya had resulted in they actually meeting in Jerusalem. They had their Jerusalem, they had their country. So these are some of the greatest inspirations we take from them. Jainism is a political ideology which took birth at the time of their freedom struggle. It had its own, qualities, like, because of Jainism, Israel declared itself as a Jewish nation. Their constitution calls Israel a Jewish state. We, in our constitution, did not call India a Hindu state and Hindu nation. There can be a debate why you could have called it. But very interestingly, India's constitution does not even call India a nation. Do you know that? In the entire constitution, India is not described as a nation. In the preamble, we called India, we the people of India. When India was defined in Article 1, it was defined as a union of states. So there was a debate in Constituent Assembly. Some people asked Ambedkar, why are you aping American Constitution, copying American Constitution, which begins with the statement, we the people of the United States of America. Why are you following it? Why not call we the nation of India? Why don't you start the constitution like that? Ambedkar gives a very important, very valid reply. He says, look, it's very fanciful to say that we are a nation and all that. Where is the national consciousness in this country? We are divided on caste lines, we are divided on religious lines. Here, that national oneness, national consciousness needs to be created. One can debate over that. But the lesson that you learn from the Jewish history is that it's not about polity, whether you declare or not declare. This consciousness will remain, it remains in the hearts of the people. To that extent, yes, we take a lot of pride or interest from the Jewish history.
Okay, I have a question from Shri Bharat. Several constitutional amendments passed by Indira Gandhi under emergency rule. Will they be reviewed since they were passed under duress?
Oh, actually it was done in 1977 itself. When the Janata government came, the 44th amendment had reversed many amendments of 42nd amendment, which was, as you rightly said, which was introduced under very peculiar circumstances when there was no opposition present in the parliament. But certain things remained. For example, this preamble, in that the word secular was inserted at that time. It remained. Because it has a history. When the Constituent Assembly was debating over the preamble, many members had suggested that we should declare ourselves as a secular state. Nehru makes a very interesting intervention, for all his faults. For us, it's again a favorite pastime to blame Nehru for anything and everything. Fair enough, he had his own share of mistakes. I don't say that. But there are a few things which we all must understand and appreciate. For example, on this issue of whether India should be declared a secular state, Nehru makes a very interesting observation. He says, look, we are anyway secular. Indians by nature are secular. We don't discriminate on religious basis. It's not in our swabhava, in our nature. But if you put it in the constitution, there will be a conflict with respect to many of our traditions. Because in Nehru's words, he says, in India, religion and culture overlap. So for example, we formed a shipyard, we called it Hindustan Shipyard. Can you call it as a secular country? Can you use the word Hindu? Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Or even when you bring Rafale jet from France, as soon as they land, there is a proper puja done to them. You do it. It's a cultural practice in India. So Nehru says here there is a lot of overlap. Don't create confusion by inserting words like secularism. That's why remember, when the constitution was made originally, secularism word was not there. And that credit should go to Nehru. So this insertion happened in 76. So in their own wisdom, later it was decided, okay, we are anyway secular. Carry on with it, no problem. You have to define it properly, that's all. So today, secular government, yet we build Ram temple. Happy? We are not discriminating against any religion, but we are respecting the symbols of India's culture. Char Dham, we are renovating. So, certain things I do agree, certain things remain, but many things with respect to judiciary and other things were removed through 44th Amendment in 1978.
Okay, the next question is from Vineet Gaurav. We had a big thing in terms of International Yoga Day. What's the next big thing? We had a big thing in terms of International Yoga Day, right? Everybody now has adopted it. What's the next big thing?
Next is, I think, environment. On that, we will be making major interventions. So, in any case, International Yoga Day, okay, it has set a precedent for countries to celebrate it, but Diwali now has become a big international festival now. As I told you, Australian government has now decided to declare Diwali a holiday.
Yay.
Here, holiday? Okay, planning. Okay, when elections come, use your power and get it. so many things are driven by political reasons also, but good. I mean, slowly, India's civilizational cultural wisdom is going to take, the world stage in a more pronounced way. The reason is India today is coming before the world with strength. The strength of its culture is now witnessed. When was the last time that you saw a Prime Minister wearing saffron robes and a mala and vibhuti and going to a temple? Never before 2014. Indira Gandhi used to go, but used to go very secretly to certain gurus and ashrams. There was no TV anywhere those days. But today we are wearing our culture, our civilization proudly on our sleeves. The top people are wearing. So it gets respectability all over the world. So many things will come now. Many things will follow now.
So related to the same question, how do we take this, how do we connect our next generation with our culture?
Yes, this is a challenge not just for you in the US, but even in India. As I said, a new discourse is taking shape in the world. That new discourse needs to be guided by us carefully. We have to be careful about the vocabulary. We have to be careful about our expressions, the ideas that we articulate. Otherwise, the youngsters will be put off. The next generation needs things to be presented in contemporary perspective. We all need to take up that responsibility of presenting, if I were to use a very, very chic expression, how can you make Hinduism fashionable? Fashionable not in any negative sense, but one should feel proud to be a Hindu. So that is what we all need to think. You have great philosophy, great wisdom, great knowledge about which we don't have any idea. Hindus don't have any idea. So first of all, know those issues and then hand them over to the generation. Today's younger generation is, number one, much more well equipped than we were young. We didn't have this हमारे सुदर्शन जी बोलते थे karna pisachi. This karna pisachi was there in our hands when we were young, but today every youngster has this karna pisachi. This karna pisachi means it has answers to everything. Google Mata. Anything you say, you will just Google it and tell you, no, sir, what you are saying is not correct. So you can no longer pretend to be knowing things. You will be exposed. So today they are knowledgeable. They have access to information. Whether it is knowledge or not is debatable. But they have access to information. So we need to be guarded. But more importantly, this is my experience, probably you agree with me. The present generation of youngsters is more idealistic than probably we are when we were young. They are more idealistic. They will question you on many issues from a very idealistic ground. Don't dismiss them. Of course, in US you cannot scold them. In India में तो थप्पड़ भी लगा देंगे. यहाँ करेंगे तो पुलिस स्टेशन में चला जाएगा. But you need to patiently appreciate their views and also give them right direction. In any case, I will say one thing. Allow openness. If somebody questions the religion, questions certain practices, don't immediately brand him as anti-Hindu or perverted or anti-national. Nowadays, to both liberally, they terms of anti-national. Don't call everybody anti-national. Yeah? Whoever disagrees with you is an anti-national. These labels we should not use too liberally. Use them where they are needed to be used. You know, मैं तो कश्मीर हैंडल करता था. कश्मीर इसका biggest headache is रात को 9 बजे टीवी चैनल्स में कश्मीर इसको anti-national बोलना ही बोलना है. So I used to tell them, best solution to it is watch Netflix at 9 o'clock. Don't watch channels. What can you do? There are people sitting in Delhi whose pastime is to pass certificates of patriotism to people. So we should be careful with our youth today. I am very hopeful that this discourse they will understand, they see the world, they will do it. But we need to now take up that responsibility.
Thank you. I have another question from Saurav. Compulsory MSP as law is not possible. Rather, it is not economically viable. Then why Bharatiya Kisan Sangh is asking for it? Mr. Mohan Mishra keep on asking for it.
Yes, because in India the agricultural practices are different from what you see in countries like US and all. In India, minimum support price is a requirement because our land holdings are small. 70% of the Indian farmers have land holdings which are smaller than 2 hectares, less than 5 acres. So for them, without minimum support price, their survival becomes difficult. I mean, they cannot continue with agriculture. At a time when we are allowing complete free market play in agriculture, you know how market forces operate. They compete. So, there, without some kind of safeguard for the small farmers, there could be some difficulties, some exploitation happening with respect to the small farmer. Big farmer who has got 100 quintals in his backyard can bargain. He will talk to this seller, that seller, he can bargain. But somebody who has only 5 bags, he will be at the receiving end. So that is the reason why the organizations like Kisan Sangh are insisting on MSP. But the larger economic question is MSP a good practice? Is government supporting prices? Is it a good practice? Larger economic issue is no. In the longer run, it may not be a good practice. That is also equally real. Thirdly, in India, the challenge is agriculture market prices are not determined by Government of India alone. It has also to be determined by states. Where states do the procurement, they have to decide. So, it is complicated for Government of India to declare MSP. Because then states may say, no, I won't pay that. So, on MSP regime, lot of discussion is happening in the country. Kisan Sangh's demand is, from their perspective, it's a genuine demand from their perspective. But from the government's perspective, there are certain practical issues. Should we again bog agriculture sector down in this MSP regime. क्योंकि MSP मिल रहा है तो वही क्रॉप बनाते रहेगा, तो मिनिमम प्राइस मिल जाएगा ना, तो चावल ही बनाते रहोगे। और एवरी प्रोडक्ट पर MSP मांगो। Can governments give MSP on 200 items? There are 20 items, 21 items on which MSP is possible. Now the demand is not 21. Whatever I grow on that MSP though. So these are complications that government faces. So we need to find a middle ground on which some effort is going on.
We are coming to the close of our event, so I will ask you a provocative question. I know you are not afraid of provocative questions, but here it is. When do we expect taking over POK Gilgit-Baltistan by India?
Oh, वैसे तो ज़्यादा प्रोवोकेटिव नहीं है, मैंने पहले ही कह दिया सबका नंबर आएगा। थोड़ा, I mean, you should only chew that much that you can digest. You can bite that much what you can chew. Chew that much that you can digest. If you bite too much, it will be mouthful, you will be in trouble. So देखेंगे, उसका बहुत बड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड इश्यू है, क्या होगा कैसे होगा देखेंगे। एक तो हो गया ना, कश्मीर का इश्यू हो गया ना, बाकी का
Okay, one more. What is this is by Vignesh Kosti. What is happening in Maharashtra? It is burning now. Is center taking any action?
No, I don't know. There is no fire accident in Maharashtra. And here and there hospitals में होता है, not burning. Maharashtra is a state being run by a coalition government. Many people thought that it won't last, but it has not only lasted, it looks like it will last. You know, politics, power is a big glue. एक बार चिपक गया तो चिपक गया है, तो चल रहा है. So it's not burning. States will have problems. Just because it is run by a different government doesn't mean it's burning. We have political battles, we will wage those battles, and maybe when next elections come, we will make sure that this coalition is defeated in a proper government that represents the people's mandate. Is brought to power. What happened in Maharashtra was, people's mandate was something, the government that was formed was totally opposite. I mean, एग्जाम में 3 बच्चे को 35 से कम मार्क्स आया, तीनों फेल हो गए, पर तीनों अपना मार्क्स मिला के बताया कि हमारा तो 70 से ऊपर है. 3 failed students coming together and forming the government. I mean, technically allowed है. You can't say that no, you can't do it. It's allowed technically. But the first class mark आया BJP को, to keep it out. BJP Shivsena. I mean, election we fought together. It happens in democracies. Enjoy it.
But yesterday it was burning. Maharashtra was burning yesterday.
What happened?
All this Amravati and all this.
No fire accident, na? Not.
There
are 3 cities.
Kamala, yesterday. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was.
Malegaon and Amravati.
And Nanded.
Yeah, Nanded.
Oh, Kamala, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because of Tripura issues.
Oh, Tripura issue. There was a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was, that 16-hour flight yesterday. I didn't follow what happened. My apologies, I'm not aware of anything that had happened yesterday or day before.
Okay, perhaps the last question. We know what happened in Bangladesh around Dashera, Durga Puja, and there was a lot of reaction all over from citizens and different organizations. Do you know of any engagement at the diplomatic level?
Generally speaking, the situation in Bangladesh, generally speaking, the communal issues are always considered to be internal issues of those governments. We do have concern for the Bangladeshi Hindus, which we conveyed through different channels, to different means. In fact, I wrote a long article in Indian Express 3 days ago, there was an article in Indian Express about our concerns. what is the larger issue about Bangladesh? We all must remember. The present government in Bangladesh, in the last few decades, it has been the best government as far as the minority is concerned. It's a relative term when I say this. There can be a better government. I don't know about that. But if you look at Bangladesh's history, the present government has been better for the Hindus of Bangladesh. They have been given due share in polity. There are 18 elected MPs in Bangladesh, elected Hindu MPs, out of whom 17 come from the ruling party, Awami League. One comes as an independent. Then nominated 3 MPs, also ruling party nominates 3 other minorities. So minorities have a voice in the parliament. And in many areas they get employment. In police services, at least 10% minorities have jobs in the police services. In administration, about 7% minorities have jobs. So, relatively speaking, under Sheikh Hasina's rule, Bangladeshi Hindus have felt a little reprieve. Have felt a little reprieve always. Had it been the government of Jamaat and BNP, under their regime, things used to be much worse. That doesn't mean they don't face problems now. They continue to face it. That is because in Bangladesh, there is a steady rise of Islamic fundamentalist forces. It is happening for 2 reasons. One is, of course, naturally in South Asia, Islamic fundamentalism is on the rise. And Taliban, Pakistan, these are the catalysts for rise of Islamic radicalism in South Asia. Bangladesh is also not able to completely ward off that kind of a phenomena. So they are also falling victim to that phenomena. Some even ruling party members are also seen to be involved in the recent rioting against the Hindus. Although more than 2,000 people were arrested, cases have been foisted against them, and all that is happening. But that radicalization is rising, it's growing. Jamaat is a banned, Jamaat was banned in Bangladesh. I don't know how many of you know that. Jamaat is not banned even in India. But Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina banned it in 2013. It's a banned organization. Yet they continue to foment trouble. Jamaat is creating trouble and all. Their target appears to be that Sheikh Hasina is the stumbling block in creating an anti-India, anti-Hindu government in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina appears for them, for those radical forces who get support from Pakistan in a big way. For them, she appears to be a stumbling block. So she should be removed in the next election. Last election in 2018, she had won a landslide victory. Out of about 300 seats, 298 seats, she won something like 280 or so. It was a landslide. So their whole effort is to communalize the whole situation. Next 2 years, work hard in communalizing the situation so that Sheikh Hasina is thrown out of power in 2023. Probably that appears also to be an objective. So soft targets are Hindu minorities there. They get the consequences of it. Even Buddhists suffer. Buddhist temples were also burnt down this time. So for political reasons also it happens. So when we react to it, our reaction needs to be keeping all these things in mind. It's okay. One need not justify or support any given government. I am not saying that. Maybe this present government also has certain issues. Sheikh Hasina went after those who were responsible for 1975 coup. 13 of them were sent to gallows. Senior BNP leaders were sent to gallows. She acted very quickly about those 2016 bomb blast perpetrators. 7 of them were given death sentence immediately. But no such stern action appears to be taken against those who perpetrate atrocities against Hindus. There are arrests happening, other things happening, but we expect, generally Hindus expect more stringent action. That doesn't appear to be happening. Having said it, probably she is the available better government today. Under her regime, Dhakeshwari temple, which we all visit when we go there, got lot of support. She got, it is in the middle of a strongly Muslim area. She got additional land given to them at a very reasonable price. Financial support is extended, but I don't know you know, under this regime, Durga Puja mandaps get financial support from the ruling establishment in Bangladesh. So that's the reason why in Bangladesh, every year number of puja mandaps, the numbers go up. This year there were about 32,000 mandaps. 2018 there were about 30,000 mandaps. So in some way it's helping also, but we expect certain strong measures against those perpetrators. In that something is still wanting. So we have to take a very balanced approach. India is taking that kind of a balanced approach.
Thank you, Madhavji. And I think this brings us to the end of formal Q&A session. Madhavji.
The 1972 Indira Mujib contract written that any Hindu migrate from Bangladesh cannot get Indian citizenship. That happened in 1972. That contract still there. And Modiji, when went to Bangladesh, went to the Matua group in Faridpur, and big Matua community in West Bengal didn't get the citizenship because they migrated from Bangladesh. That law still exists. And as for the Hasina government, the political situation, even though BJP government could, we support BJP government here, but could have stand back, say, hey, what happened to Bangladesh is not right. Political, from government-wise, there is no condemnation happening.
As I said, one can have views, we can have views sitting in Chicago, but governments on diplomatic issues follow certain course. Certain issues are considered internal issues. What if they start fighting about Amravati and Malegam? What if they say Modi should have done better? So there are issues in which diplomatically there are ways of dealing with it. Message is being conveyed, I tell you. And about 1972 Indira Mujib Accord did say that who crossover at the time of that creation of Bangladesh would be the botheration of our respective countries. If they had come to India, India would take care of them. If they had gone to Bangladesh, Bangladesh would take care of them. But further, we should not let people cross into each other's country. That was 1972 agreement, which was honored. Indian government also subsequently ratified it. Bangladesh government ratified first. Many years later, we also ratified it. What we did after Modi ji came to power was not just 72. We are not putting as 72 as cut-off mark. Until 2014, until the time that we formed the government, persecuted people when they come into India, they can take citizenship. We have extended Indira Mujib Accord to 2014. So, while 1972 what you say is true, it had a cut-off mark of 72 as the cut-off, but we extended it to 2014. Now we are willing to give citizenship to all those people, including Matwas in West Bengal and all. Now they can claim citizenship under our CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act. So we are doing it. So certain measures we take, certain issues are diplomatic, they will be handled differently.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Madhav. Thank you for taking all the questions so patiently and trying to explain to all of us. I apologize if I was not able to take some of your questions in the spirit of not enough time, so my apologies for that. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank USA India Friendship Council, Indic Academy Indica, Sheraton, all staff, management, and Avdesh ji. Please give them a round of applause. Also thank BAPS for Prasad, all Hindu organizations and volunteers for making this happen. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
So before we conclude this program, and all of us will enjoy our wonderful lunch, our BAPS Karyakartas want to felicitate Madhavji, so I will request Anilji and Pareshji to come please forward and give your respect to Ram Madhav ji. After that, we will do the Shanti Mantra. Please take your lunch and come back. And Councillor General Amit Kumar ji is already here. And when you will start your lunch, we will go for the next meeting.